Hey YouTube, it's your man Dave here, and we're here for this week's edition of Short Story Sundays. Well, this could be a weekly thing or a bi-weekly thing. Really depends on how everyone kind of feels about it. So let's begin. Today's story is of a journey of a street urchin in the city of Patritha in the year 2761. I'll be reading from his point of view. My name is Tristan, or at least that's what they used to call me. Nowadays, it's more common to hear street urchin, bum, or beggar. I'd run away from the orphanage less than a year ago. It had been a place of love, nurturing, and growth. What a load of crock, I thought to myself. It had been closer to a prison than an orphanage. That was well in the past, though, and now it was more important to find food than to reminisce about the past. The streets had started to grow cold at night, and food was becoming scarcer and scarcer as the days came and went. The ITF police force had been out all month looking for the homeless, and if they found you, you were simply never seen again. Staying clear of these patrols became the hardest part of the night, and it was getting worse every day. Come on, boy, I called to Jasper, my only companion on my journey through life. He was a small dog, about a foot tall and about 2 feet long. He had scruffy white fur and a knack for finding the good stuff when we were scavenging for food. It had been a week since our last meal, and the strength from it had quickly faded into the past. The strength I originally had for this was long gone, now replaced by the cold, fear, and hunger. I still dreamed of nicer city streets and the lavish jungles of the outer colonies, but it was a fading dream cramped out by the current situation of survival I now faced. Being 15 was harder than I anticipated, but that's what you get when you live a pampered life. I used to dress in school uniforms, now I dressed in rags. My black hair and brown skin grew cold and calloused as the days went on. "Tristan, is that you?" I heard from a man at the end of the alleyway I found myself in. "Who wants to know?" I replied, nervous of the fact I could still be caught and thrown back in the orphanage. "It's me, Victor, the store clerk. You used to visit me every Thursday," he replied happily, finally protruding into the light enough I could finally see the iconic fur cap that accompanied his Fu Manchu. "Victor, it's been forever. How have you been, old friend?" I asked, forgetting my current situation for a moment of humanity. "I have been well, but you look like you've been through hell and back. Why are you not at the orphanage?" he inquired. "The place was a prison. I couldn't take it anymore. I've been living on the streets ever since," I replied. "You know you could have always come and stayed with me," he offered. "I'll think about it." "What's to think? I insist," he said, throwing an arm over my shoulder. "Fine, but only for a night," I replied, walking with him down the road to the busy traffic in the direction of the store. He owned a small food store on the west side of town. It was a much nicer neighborhood than the slums of the south where I had been staying. But on the flip side, for me at least, it had twice the ITF patrols in the area. Since rumors of war had started, rumors had started leaking from the outer colonies about a war between the ITF and something much more powerful. No one could be sure except for maybe the council and the soldiers that were fighting the war. Sadly, this made it harder for me and anyone else without an identification card on them, or if they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time to avoid the ITF's brutal recruiting policies. People were getting pulled off the streets in the middle of the day now. It was getting worse, and being on the street full time was a risk. As we finally entered the store, the smell of ripe, wet fruit overwhelmed my senses. The store was filled with more produce than the farmers' markets I'd seen on the south side of the city. The dark of night had finally taken hold, and only the street lights illuminated the area outside the store. Despite the growing darkness, the number of people did not falter, and remained steady as Victor motioned me to the table. "Sit down, I shall bring you a snack," he said with a strange happiness about him. "Okay," I said, calmly waiting for the promised food. As he brought out what he called a snack, I looked at Jasper, knowing that neither of us was going hungry tonight. For what seemed like an hour, he continually brought out food till neither Jasper or I could eat any more. He quickly set about setting up our room. As I thanked him again for the food and room, he simply gestured towards the bed. As he flipped out the light switch, the darkness took hold and I was out. As the night drew on, I was awoken around 3 in the morning. Shouts of men asking for money from the register echoed in my ears. I could hear the slamming of shelves and the crashing of items as they impacted the floor. After several verbal attempts to get him to open, the safe failed. A woman screamed some unintelligible gibberish and shot what I could only assume was Victor. As my curiosity took hold, I proceeded to the staircase where I could view the 3 would-be robbers. As I peered down, a large black man with a club struck my head, causing me to black out. I woke half dazed and confused as yells and bullets ripped through the once majestic-looking store. As the yelling and gunfire stopped, several large, heavily equipped soldiers entered the building. Despite my frail attempts to resist them, I was picked up and thrown into the back of a truck where others held me in place. I had just enough time to see Jasper chasing me, and the last remnants of my former life disappear around the corner. Well, that's my story for today, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. It's late, and I'm going to eat some brownies and go to bed. Peace out.